You walk into the kitchen after a long day, drop your keys on the counter, and immediately feel the shift in the air. She is standing by the sink, quiet, and you can sense a heavy, unspoken tension radiating through the room. Your mind starts racing, scanning the last 24 hours to figure out what you might have done wrong, what you forgot to do, or what conversation you accidentally derailed. Before you even open your mouth, you are filtering your words. You swallow the story you were going to tell about your day. You lower your voice, and you carefully measure your tone. You are doing the silent, exhausting calculus of trying to avoid a spark in a room that feels filled with gasoline, tiptoeing around the woman you love because you are terrified of setting off an unpredictable reaction. This is the reality of navigating the feeling of walking on eggshells during perimenopause, a phase where the ground beneath both of you is constantly shifting. The intense estrogen fluctuations happening inside her body are rewriting her neurological baseline, making her nervous system highly reactive to stimuli that used to barely register. What looks to you like sudden, unprovoked anger or deep withdrawal is often her brain struggling to regulate emotions under the weight of a massive biological transition. Add to that the sheer physical toll of vasomotor symptoms, the sudden, intense hot flashes that rip through her body and destroy her sleep night after night. When a person is running on a deficit of deep rest, their emotional bandwidth shrinks to zero, leaving them raw and exposed to the slightest friction. The volatility you are experiencing in the living room is not a deliberate attack on your character, but the overspill of a body operating in survival mode. But understanding the biology does not automatically solve the dynamic taking root in your home. As men, our instinct when faced with emotional turbulence is often to retreat, to manage the threat by shrinking our own presence. We start suppressing our own needs, holding back our opinions and dialing down our personalities just to keep the peace and get through the evening without an argument. We tell ourselves we are being supportive by staying out of the way. But this silent withdrawal actually breeds a deep, quiet resentment. By constantly monitoring her moods and adjusting your behavior to avoid triggering her, you are slowly erasing yourself from the equation. This emotional exhaustion builds up over weeks and months, quietly replacing the vibrant shared partnership you once had with a hollow defensive distance. To stop this cycle, you have to realize that shrinking yourself does not actually help her feel more secure. When you become a ghost in your own home, constantly deferring and apologizing just to neutralize the tension, you remove the steady anchor she desperately needs. She does not need a silent observer who is afraid of her. She needs a grounded man who can hold his own center even when her world feels chaotic. The first step in reclaiming that center is to stop matching her anxiety with your own avoidance. When the tension spikes over something trivial, like a misplaced dish or a misunderstood text message, resist the urge to immediately fold or flee the room. Stand your ground with a calm, non-defensive presence, taking a deep breath and letting the initial wave of her frustration wash over you without internalizing it as a personal failure. Remember to separate the woman you love from the biology of what is happening. The estrogen fluctuations and vasomotor symptoms are a physiological reality. She is not just dealing with a shifting body, she is exhausted. Brain fog and the sleep deprivation from night sweats strip away her emotional buffer. Instead of trying to fix the moment, drop the urge to ask what is wrong or offer solutions. Focus on physical presence. Rather than asking why she is so quiet, offer a simple statement. Tell her you are making some tea and leaving a cup for her, or just let her know you are right there if she needs you. Sometimes the best move is saying nothing at all and just quietly emptying the dishwasher. And if you put a hand on her shoulder and she shrugs it off, do not take it personally. Her nervous system might be overloaded, or her skin might literally feel too hot from a flash. Just step back, stay in the room, and remain steady. Your calmness is contagious. Think about the last time a minor disagreement spiraled out of control simply because you were too afraid to state your actual perspective. You likely agreed to something you resented, or gave a vague, non-committal answer that only made her feel more isolated and unheard. That hesitation, that desperate attempt to smooth things over with half-truths, is exactly what fuels the communication patterns that are slowly pulling you two apart. It is incredibly draining to feel like you are always one wrong word away from a crisis. Addressing the loss of your own voice is painful, especially when you realize you have been complicit in creating this dynamic by choosing comfort over honesty. But acknowledging your own emotional fatigue is the only way to stop the bleeding and begin repairing the trust that has been eroded by all this tiptoeing. You have to start setting boundaries, and you have to do it without a trace of anger or retaliation. If a conversation becomes genuinely destructive or disrespectful, you can calmly state that you want to hear her, but you cannot engage while the temperature is this high. Stepping away for 20 minutes to let the physiological arousal drop is not abandoning her, it is protecting the relationship from unnecessary damage. When you return to the conversation, you must speak with clarity and directness. Tell her what you are observing without diagnosing her or blaming her, using simple statements about your own experience of the tension. Honest communication requires you to bring your full self back to the table, expressing your own limits while remaining deeply committed to finding a way through the friction together. As you practice this, remember that the brain fog she is dealing with can make processing complex emotional arguments incredibly difficult for her. Her working memory and cognitive stamina are under siege from the shifting hormones, meaning she might lose the thread of the conversation or feel overwhelmed by too many moving parts. Keep your words grounded, straightforward, and focused on the immediate dynamic rather than dragging up past grievances. It is crucial to recognize that the exhaustion you are feeling is a shared weight, even if you are carrying it in different ways. She is exhausted by a body she no longer fully recognizes, and you are exhausted by a home environment that feels perpetually fragile. Letting go of the resentment means accepting that neither of you chose this difficulty, but both of you are responsible for how you handle it. This is how you transition from merely surviving the daily triggers to actively building a resilient, mature partnership. You stop viewing her emotional spikes as a threat to your peace, and start viewing them as weather patterns passing through the landscape of your life together. You learn to put on a raincoat and keep walking rather than hiding in the basement every time the sky gets dark. Ultimately, you are two people facing a significant biological transition as a united front. The strength of a teammate dynamic is not found in the absence of conflict, but in the shared commitment to return to one another after the storm has passed. When you stop walking on eggshells, you give both of you the permission to be human, flawed, and authentic in the midst of a very messy process. There will still be quiet evenings when the house settles and a lingering distance hangs in the air. You might sit on the couch watching television, entirely aware of the physical space between you, wondering if it is safe to reach out. The temptation to just let the silence stretch into the next day, to avoid rocking the boat, will be incredibly strong. That is the exact moment you must break the cycle of fear and initiate connection. A simple touch on the shoulder, a calm question about her day, or just offering a glass of water can shatter the invisible barrier that avoidance has built. You do not need to process the earlier argument or demand a resolution. You just need to signal that you are still here, solid and unbothered. Re-establishing your own personality means bringing your humor, your interests, and your opinions back into the light. Stop waiting for her mood to dictate the atmosphere of the house, and take responsibility for generating your own positive energy. When you lead with quiet confidence and reclaim your own joy, you often provide the exact steadying force she needs to ground herself. It takes immense strength to stand in her corner, while simultaneously standing firm in yourself. You are holding space for her profound physical and emotional changes, without letting those changes dictate your own sense of worth or stability. This is the essence of masculine devotion, choosing to remain engaged, honest, and steady, when it would be so much easier to simply check out. When you stop tiptoeing around the woman you love, you invite her to meet you in a place of true, mutual respect. The tension will gradually lose its power over your home, replaced by a deep, tested trust that you can handle whatever this season throws at you. You are no longer dodging shadows. You are walking side by side, building a partnership that is stronger, wiser, and endlessly resilient.